Welcome, my friends, to the bike lane with an awesome graphic that's supposed to be me on a bicycle. Some days I'd be thrilled that I look that good. Hello, my friends. Tom Ziska here with the bike lane, and we are at the Urban Bicycle Gallery tonight on Durham, just south of Washington, with owner, my friend, Eric Attai. Eric, thank you for being with us and letting us come in.
For sure.
Staying a little longer. He closes at 6, by the way, just so you know, if you want to come on a visit. So he's staying a little late for us. So Eric has been gracious enough to help us with the topic du jour for cyclists. And this affects really anybody on a bicycle, whether it's a kid tooling around the neighborhood or the Tour de France racer. You get a flat tire, you got to do something with it. Now, the Tour de France racers, they got a guy who's going to stop and change the tire for them.
Yeah.
Most everybody else has got to fix the flat themselves.
On the side of the road.
Yeah. So I will, and you'll bear with me here while I manipulate some things here. There we go. I'm going to put that. That's Eric's name. But I met Eric. You were a mechanic for the Bike Barn, which now are Trek stores. But anyway, as a mechanic, we were talking about this earlier. Can you count the number of times somebody has come into your shop with a flat tire, said, "I got a flat. Can you fix it?"
It'd take me a long.
Do you have enough fingers and toes
No.
in your family?
Absolutely not.
No. Why do you think the idea of fixing a flat is kind of beyond comprehension for some people?
I think there's multiple steps to it, and it gets your hands dirty, and sometimes things are just easier if you take them somewhere and let someone else do it for you.
However, most cyclists that you ride with, that I ride with, they're prepared to fix a flat because it happens frequently. You're riding with friends, got a flat, everybody stops, hopefully,
Right.
and then you take some time to fix it.
Yep.
In your hands, out on a ride, how long from get off the bike, get out the stuff, fix the flat, inflate the tire, and go?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I changed some tires and had to insert like tubes and all that stuff on my bike. The tires were very, very difficult. It took almost an hour, but it was trying to get the tire over the rim of the wheel. So, and that can happen, right?
There's a trick to it, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about it. So we have a number of people here, and I'm going to click on some things here. Yeah, there. So just so you know who we're talking to, let's talk about the process. So you're riding, or you come out to the garage, you want to ride, and you find, oh shoot, I have a flat tire. What do you got to do? What do you start with?
I mean, the first thing you got to start with is to make sure it's flat. Go ahead and inflate it just to double check, just to see if there's anything that's like obvious leaking and how fast the leak is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think sometimes, and if it's walking into the garage and you find your tire flat, some of it has to depend on like when was the last time you pumped it up. Because most people don't know this, is that over a 1 week period, a tire can lose its air.
Mm-hmm.
Overnight, it can lose up to 10 psi just in one night.
Sure.
Right, depending on how much pressure's in it. So sometimes you may think you have a flat, but it's actually just deflated and it needs air, and it just needs to be checked.
Oh no, but this time you got a hole in it.
Yep. So if it's obvious and you hear it, spewing out, well, then it's going to be you want to first get the wheel off the bike. It's usually the first step. And with most bikes, it's always going to be about the same. You've got your gears in the back, and the first step is usually you want to bring it down to the smallest cog.
And why do you want to do that?
Because that way when you put it back on, where the chain goes on the cassette.
Okay.
So when you put the wheel back in, you can match it to that same cog that you took it off.
Okay.
So it just makes the process a lot easier.
Sure.
On this is a disc brake bike with a through axle. Some bikes are going to have quick release. Some kids' bikes are going to have bolt-on, so
Right.
you might need a tool.
So you might need a wrench. or release the bike.
Yeah,
if it's-
or
yeah.
quick release,
Okay.
or in this case, it's a through axle,
Mhm.
so you unthread the axle, and that comes right out. Just like that.
Yep.
Switch sides.
Yep.
This drops out.
There we go.
Just like that.
Just like that, and suddenly you've got a wheel and a flat tire.
Yeah. This one's not.
It's not flat, but we're going to
gonna
pretend
act
that
like
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the air.
And this is what a flat tire will look like. Obviously, yeah, it's very demonstrative.
So this is kind of this is a little bit different because
Mhm.
this tire is actually a tubeless tire on
Mhm.
a tubeless rim, but it does have a tube in it.
Right.
For the people out there who know what tubeless is, it's not normal for you to have
Yeah.
a tube in a tubeless tire.
I will just say, as he mentions tubeless tires, stay tuned here on the Bike Lane because I have a very specific primer coming up later at a different time on tubeless tires. But anyway,
So on this road, on the road tire, it's got a little valve
Mhm.
thing that protects the valve. So to take it, you have to take the tire off the rim
mhm.
on this one.
And this part gets intimidating right here for some people, because it takes a little bit of
It can.
it takes a little bit of effort to get the tire off the wheel, the rim.
Yeah, you gotta kind of pinch it with your
Mhm.
hands and pull it to the center channel.
Mhm.
And so this is where the trick kind of starts.
Okay.
So in a lot of cases, people don't realize that you need to get the center of you got to get the beads of the tire down into the center of the wheel.
Okay.
And what that does is it creates a lot of slack.
Uh-huh.
You can see, if you can.
All right.
Anyway,
That you don't have if the edges of the tire are closer to the rim.
yeah.
An
So
edge.
you'll need a tire lever.
See, that's what I use frequently.
Yeah. So a tire lever will help you get the tire off if you can't get it slack enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that just requires you'll put the
The edge of the
the
lever
tire
right
lever
there.
underneath,
Mm-hmm.
and then it should just wrap around,
Mhm.
and it pulls one side off.
Now, are some tires, it's been my experience, some tires are much harder to get off a wheel, a rim,
Yes.
as it's known, than other tires.
Yeah.
They are just so tight. Why is that?
It just depends on the rim and it depends on the tire itself. So
See, I always thought it was some tire designer just trying to get even with people.
yeah,
Could be.
could be,
Yeah.
could be, but no, in most cases it's just the way that the tire is sitting on the rim.
Mhm.
And in a lot of cases, like there are some that are just significantly
Right,
different
right.
and much harder. But in most cases, it's just where you get that bead when you get it off. It just you have to get it down into that center channel.
Mm-hmm.
It really creates a lot more slack.
Okay. So you have you've kind of taken the tube out.
Yeah, I already kind of started that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll pull it all the way out,
Mm-hmm.
the valve and everything. So this would be the bad tube.
Right.
And
Now, at this part, in an MS-150 a number of years ago, I had 5 flats in the first day.
then, yep,
And on the 6th flat,
the same wheel.
the same wheel, same tire, I hitched a ride to the next service center, and I said, so many flats, I can't find out what's causing it. Please help me.
Yeah.
So the trick here is you've got a flat tire. Now you've got to figure out why it's flat, right?
Right.
So
And there's a couple steps, and I kind of jumped ahead. I mean, there's one step that you can actually do if you could inflate this. Now, being on the road, it's a little bit harder,
Mhm.
but if it's like your kid's bike or whatever inside the garage and you know it's flat, there's one method that you can do is actually when you take the tube out, you can check with some kind of pressure, whether it's the floor pump or if you have a compressor or anything.
Mhm.
You'll want to inflate a little bit of air into
Yep.
the tube so that it's got shape, and then you can find
Where the hole is.
where the hole is, if
And-
there is, yeah, right. If there is a hole.
And then if you find where the hole is on the tube rather,
then it could lead you
to the general area on the tire and where to look.
Exactly.
And
Because
then you-
sometimes it could be on the inside, which would be caused from an issue with rim tape
Mhm.
on the wheel. And then obviously if it's on the outside, then you know it's something that punctured it.
Maybe there's a piece of glass. Maybe there's a thorn, a rock that has kind of cut a hole in your tire.
Yep. Also, in some cases too, you can get pinch flat, and pinch flat would look like a snake bite. It would have two little holes side by side in almost the same exact spot, and that's from not having enough air pressure in the tire when you're riding, and it catching on like a firm area or on a pothole.
It's kind of compressed everything real
Right.
tight, and that
Pinches
quick
it.
compression put a little hole in it.
Yeah, pinches it and gets the tube to pop.
Okay.
So in this case, let's say we couldn't find it in the tube. And so what you would do is if you can take the tire off the rim completely, and you'll run your hands through the inside, and with the hopes of finding something, you can feel
You're
it.
trying for your fingertips to catch something, something pokey.
Yeah, and also at the same time, you're inspecting the outside of the tire as well. Because if there's something that's obvious, like a little cut or a gash, or there's some piece of rock or glass in it, you'll see it on the outside, and you can pinch the tire and actually kind of extract it.
Sure.
In that method. But yeah.
All right.
In this one.
So while you do that, I'm going to look at some comments here, see if they're. We have some friends. That's basically just saying hi. So you find what's causing the problem.
Sure.
If you can extract it, you can do that.
Yep.
If there's a cut in the tire in some fashion, maybe a rock or something that is kind of cut through, and you're far from home, you can kind of put something in that tire that patches temporarily.
Yeah, you could use. I mean, they actually make some internal patch like pieces of rubber that will act as a guard to that.
You can use a dollar bill.
You can use dollar bill, a goo pack.
Yep.
You could use another piece of the old tube.
Yep.
Even you can double fold it over.
It just needs to sit there long enough to get you home.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And in some cases, they'll last longer than that. you know how to save some money.
We both have stories about that. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, because I've ridden with a boot in there for a good while until the tire wore out.
And that's what that little patch is called. It's called a boot.
Yep.
Yep.
So let's say there was none of that issue. We found the piece of glass. We got it out. Getting it back on, you start with just one side of the bead. You wrap that around.
Now, here's a pro tip that not everybody knows, and I don't know the origin of it. I just know if I don't do it, I will get somebody at least will think less of me. The label on the tire, gets centered on the hole for the valve.
Yep.
Why?
Really?
Is it just appearance, or is there a reason
No,
for it?
it's because that way you can easily. So there's a couple things, right? You can easily find where the hole is when you have, when you're trying to put the new tube in.
Okay.
Also, it's a really convenient. You know where to look for the label when you're, whether you need to put air in it,
Sure.
what the pressure needs to be, or if you just need to know what the information is, that's on the tire, what kind of tire it is, what size. So it just makes it easier.
But there's also an aesthetic thing to it
There
for some
is.
people. Yeah.
There is. If you have both your labels in two different places, so if the rear label was, let's say, here, and the front label, I don't know if you can see that.
They can't, but it's
see
perfect.
it, but yeah. And the front label was in the right spot, well, then you'd have.
There are some people who are very particular about appearances.
There is.
Yes.
Yeah, there are.
But it's not going to affect whether the tire actually works, though.
No, it's
Okay.
not.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay.
Yeah. And that goes for the rotation of it too. There is a lot of times a rotational direction.
Yeah. Some tires are saying rotation this way, so you got to mount it the correct way.
Yeah, but if you don't, it's not like it's not going to work.
Yeah. It'll still roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if you do it the right way, that's the way it should be done.
All right, so you got the tire back on the rim. You're ready for the fresh tube.
Yep.
And
so with this,
hey, a fresh tube.
Yeah. With this, you can actually inflate these if it's got the Presta valve. If it's a Schrader valve, you cannot, so don't try. But you want to put a little bit of air. So if it is a Schrader valve, like a car tire, you'll just pop it on the pump, put a pump in it so that it gets some shape. Or with this, if you're on the road, you can just blow in it. And it'll give you the shape that you need.
Right.
This just makes it easier to put the tube inside the
That
tire.
way the tube doesn't start folding all over the place and
Exactly.
twisting around as you're trying to get it back in there.
Yeah. So here.
Right. Valve stem.
Yep.
Through the rim.
Yep. And then
You start tucking it inside the wheel.
Yep.
Or the tire rather.
All the way around.
It's a good view right there, huh?
And then put the other side on.
So this is where, for some people, it can be a bit of a struggle. This last, maybe 8-10 inches of tire rim that needs to get over the wheel.
And sometimes, like in this case right now, like I actually have a little too much air in it, so you might have to like release just a little bit once it's on. That way it makes it a little easier to get it in there. And then usually this can be a difficult part. That's where you can use the tire lever again. And it's real important. What I like to do in this case, if you're a road rider or even if it's with a kid's bike or a hybrid, is because this is not actually fully tucked in correctly. What I do is I work my way back. So I already had this portion tucked in. So I'll start pushing on this side and then let this one come out and continue to do that.
So you'll go back to a spot where you know the tube is already tucked in there.
Yeah. And what that does is it prevents it from getting caught in between the tire lever.
And you can get another pinch flap.
You can, just trying to put it on. So I do that until I get to a part where the tube is not underneath here, and then it makes it real easy, because then you can just pop this right over, and that's it.
And the bead of the tire has now seated on the the rim, essentially.
Essentially, yeah. Here's one other thing here. So this is always good. So the tube is sticking out. You can't really see it, but what I do is I'll push the valve into the tire here, and then make sure that that bead is on both sides. And then
you're ready to inflate.
You're ready to inflate. With this, it's going to make a nice little noise here.
And explain what that sound is.
So this is a tubeless tire, tubeless rim. And what that is, that's the bead seating onto the rim. And so with tubeless,
it's the tire locking into
the rim.
To the rim,
yeah. And that can be a little hairy sometimes, and it makes people nervous around here, because if you ever had one of these blow in your ear, it's pretty loud.
It can be loud.
It'll set the alarm off in the shop. So then you get it on, valve here, put the lock ring on. Which actually can be done before you inflate too, because they actually designed so that it prevents the valve from getting messed up.
There you go. And then you put the whole deal back on the bike. Now the funny thing about this is, and I'll let you, and this is where where you're positioning on the gears. The derailleur comes in handy. You know exactly where you took it off, so you can seat it right there.
Yeah, on this model, this is got electronic shifting on it, and when it's in the small ring up front, it won't actually let you go to the smallest cog. So I'm going to be putting it back onto the second cog here. It is disc brake. Disc brake's a little bit trickier. You have to line it up into the caliper, but you get that chain right over that second cog, right, taking it off, and it goes right in.
Right there.
Super easy.
And you put that through axle back in. Screw it down. Tighten it up. and you're ready to ride again. So the funny thing about this, we've taken 20 minutes to talk about that process.
20 minutes already?
Yeah, boom. The experienced tire changer will do that in a matter of 5-ish minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer, maybe a little bit less,
Maybe a little faster.
maybe a little faster, maybe there's
trying to show off.
maybe there's a little showing off, maybe the buddies are kind of keeping track of how quickly you can get them back on the road.
Yeah.
But this is an essential skill, I think.
Yeah.
For people who are going to ride a lot, you got to know how to change it too.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Rampage, my daughter, rides a lot. If she's watching, she knows. She doesn't know how to change it too. We're going to fix that though. So, but now you have a skill that maybe you didn't have before. It's entirely easy to do. It's also super, super important, super, super easy. And now you know, courtesy of Eric Atai here at the Urban Bicycle Gallery. Come see him. He's on Durham, just south of Washington. Again, he closes at 6, so he stayed a little later for us, but we're appreciative of that. Eric, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
It's good to see you.
Of course.
Absolutely. And so thanks for checking in. We appreciate it as always. Drop me a line on any of the 3 emails, Facebook, Twitter. You got an idea, you got a question about bicycle stuff, it's for any kind of bicycle. Whether you're a hardcore rider or your kids ride around the block, we want to address those questions. So we'll cover all of those things in the coming weeks here on the Bike Lane. For now, though, thanks for checking in. We'll see you next Monday night. And that is that. Oh, good. I hear sirens out here. All right, we'll go figure out what that is. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.